whoops, didn't need to compile because I've already because I hadn't changed any source code, and we get the outprint high. So that's just your basic try, catch, throw, new, and throws handling. Constructors, there we go. Alright, when using certain code, you'll come across a few problems with static and non-static content. There you go, there, static. So, easiest way to do it is just use new operator, and then you take it from the class's name, sMain, and you do that. You create a constructor of that class. Right, and this, we just say the constructor, and we define it like that. This isn't like your average methods. It doesn't have a return type like even void, because if I was to use void, then that would give us a few problems with this line up here, line 5. Oh, maybe not. Okay, that's interesting. 1 second. Right, I just typed out a system.out.print line test. Right, so we have defined a method here, but we're trying to make a new constructor here. So we don't have a constructor for this. So when we try to print out test, we don't end up getting it because there is no constructor. So we don't need a return type. And there's our method, there's our outprint, because the constructor is now found. It didn't seem to print out an error. I'm not sure why. I thought it did, but that was my mistake. Right, so there's our constructor. Now we can define all our code in here rather than in our main method. Right, so that's exceptions, comments, the Boolean operators, and constructors. And now I want to talk about multiple classes. Right, so you don't need to define everything in just that one class. We can define things in multiple classes. Just copy that. And we're going to change this to, I don't know, S. What should I call this? Main, not main. Right, so we've got S not main.java. Let's quickly compile this so we can see the error we're going to get. Right, S not main.java, line 1. Class sMain is public, should be declared in a file named sMain.java. Right, so that's telling us that the class name we've just given this is sMain, but it's not in the file sMain, it's in a file called s.not.main. So we need to call it s.not.main. And there goes our constructor kicking a hissy fit at us. And there you go. Right, so now we have two classes. Right, and in here we can define a method, and we're going to just make any method public, because we define we're going to call this from our main method. We say public byte return a number, and we'll catch the number here, byte. And I'm not sure if I've talked about these inputting code up the top here, like within the main method. What you can do is just rather than defining all your data types, you can actually define them within the methods parentheses, I think these are called. And so I can say byte b, and that means when I call this method s not main dot return a number, you'll get a nice little error on that, but I'll just wait a sec, return, before showing you that b, before fixing it. Right, so it does not apply with the parentheses because there's a byte type inside here, so we need to set the byte type, and we're just going to call that 1. You don't need to do byte 1 like you do when setting the new value for a variable. You don't redefine the variable type before setting it like var1 equals 1. You just say var equals 1 because it will know, because you previously defined the data type. Right, so that should compile, and we should, no, oh, 1 sec. Right, this doesn't apply to an integer type. I hadn't called it an integer. Right, so that's interesting. Right, so I think we're going to have to apply this as a byte type, the value going in. Right, now we're getting a non-static method. Okay, 1 second. Right, and I think that's because this isn't public. No, it's not. Okay. Right, I've realised what I was doing wrong here. Right, we're going to make our which one should extend off what? Right, we're going to extend our sMain class to our sNotMain. So all the content of sNotMain will now be accessible by sMain, and we do that with the extend operator to the class name. That was why it's failing. Right, so we remove that, and now we can just call this method, even though it's not a method of this class, because sMain now extends sNotMain. We can now call this method that's defined or declared, if you want to call it that, in sNotMain. Right, and now we can say var equals return, because this is is a byte type and has to return a value. So var will then equal b, and b will be whatever the number is that's entered inside it. Semi-pointless, but it's good for this example. Right, now we can say test plus var, and the return we should get is 1. There you go. Right, and that's pretty much how you extend from other classes to create other methods, because you don't really want to allow your your classes to get too filled out, because it takes longer to load in IDEs, and the IDEs are very useful if you're trying to save time or you're working to a deadline and you really do need to save time. Time is really a massive factor. So working to deadlines is obviously important when you're working in a business, etc. So keeping your classes nice and small